Hello lovelies and welcome back to my channel. Why not? I don't know. I am French after all. That is not how you say channel in French. What the heck? Why am I doing this? I feel like I've been away from you for a while because I haven't filmed in a couple of weeks, but I have not actually, hopefully, been away from you for that long because I'm trying to be more of a regular uploader. Let's see if that's actually worked. I realised something the other day, and that thing that I realised is that I don't read very many funny books. Now, I can't remember who it was, but someone tweeted, maybe it was Amy? I don't know. But someone tweeted saying they were looking for some funny books, and I was all set to reply, and then I realised that I literally had no funny books to recommend to them because I read everything and anything that rips my heart out and feeds it to the dogs, apparently. And I'm just really bad at reading funny stuff, which is weird because I'm generally quite a jovial person and people say that my laugh is really infectious and that I enjoy having fun. So on that note, I am starting a new series today, and not everything in the series is going to have to do with funny stuff, but this episode is going to. Now, this series is going to be called 6 Things. If you've been a viewer for a while, you remember my Stuck in a Rut 8 Books to Get You Out video, and that kind of gave me the inspiration for this series, is just to give some recommendations in the form of like some numbered list, and I realized that 8 is quite a lot of recommendations and I'm trying to make my videos shorter. So 6 things it's going to be, and all of those things are not going to necessarily be books. Sometimes it will be 6 books to do something, or sometimes it will be 6 things, and in this case it is 6 things to give you a laugh when you need one. So let's get rolling. Did I just say let's get rolling? I feel like that's really 90s. Oh. Because I love categories, as you know, I have split this video up into 2 books, 2 podcasts, and 2 TV shows because I'm neat like that. And so we're going to start with the books. And these are books that have given me a real chuckle, either recently or over the years. The first book I have to recommend is one that I hauled really recently, quite recently for me, and if you haven't seen that haul, it's over here. It's a Valentine's Day haul that went up well after Valentine's Day. Again, typical Vix fashion, and it's called Modern Romance by Aziz Ansari and Eric Klinenberg. And as I explained in the haul, this is kind of a meditation on modern love and how the act of falling in love and staying in love and maintaining a relationship has really changed over the years, and how it's possible to navigate those things in the modern era, and specifically the modern era of technology. Now, if you don't know about Aziz Ansari, he is a stand-up comedian and also the star of Master of None. So going into this book, I knew that I would at least get a few laughs, but I was surprised, and surprised in a good way, because I don't usually laugh out loud at books, and if you're lucky you might get a little chuckle from me, but this one really did make me laugh out loud on some certain occasions. So the book is really clever because it's kind of like a serious sociological study come one of Aziz Ansari's stand-up comedy routines, and it's very personal and very interesting and very exciting from a scientific sociological point of view, and that's why I loved it. It explores so many topics, from breaking up in the modern era to how much time we should leave between replies to text messages, which is obviously something that we've all been through. When do you appear too keen versus playing too hard to get? And the exciting thing about it is that it covers a huge amount of data and a huge amount of personal stories from all over the world, which is a really neat concept to me. But the thing that made it the best for me is that it is just injected with this humor while still being scientifically rigorous. And I would say that if you're not a huge fan of data and maybe even numbers, then maybe steer clear from this for a little while, but really it's super accessible and just will put a massive smile on your face. If you already know quite a lot about sociology and the practice of sociology and also online dating, then a lot of this won't necessarily be new to you, but it's really nice to just have it all put in a neatly hilarious package. And I'm always for anything that makes science accessible to one and all. So that's the first thing that I would recommend. It really did give me a laugh. The second recommendation that I have is something that's been with me for far longer and has kind of followed me through my childhood and life, and that is Calvin and Hobbes, written and illustrated by Bill Watterson. And I could probably make a whole video about how much I love Calvin and Hobbes, and I hope that a lot of my viewers have already had the amazing pleasure to read Calvin and Hobbes, because really, if you haven't, then you've been missing out. But I'm also excited at the prospect that some people might not have read it, because then they've just got all these years of laughs and smiles and heartwarms in front of them, and that's just really cute and exciting. So Calvin and Hobbes is a comic strip that follows 6-year-old Calvin and his plush tiger Hobbes on their adventures in life. And the funny thing about Hobbes is that he takes on actual life when adults are not here. So when adults are here, he's just a regular plush toy, and when they go away, he is Calvin's best friend in all the world and does everything with him. Calvin is probably the greatest character in any comic strip, in my opinion. He's a very precocious 6-year-old, arguably a genius, who has a lot of views about a lot of things in the world, and Hobbes is the perfect companion. And every single side character is also really well thought out and well developed. I mean, it would be so hard for me to describe what the comic strip covers, because it literally covers everything. We talk about gender equality, we talk about the universe, we talk about growing up, we talk about parenthood, we talk about science, we talk about art, just everything you could possibly imagine. And imagination is also a massive theme. Calvin has a really overactive imagination, and that's a huge deal to the storyline of the books, and I think that it really encourages imagination and the act of hanging on to your imagination even as you grow up, which I think is one of the things that I love most about it. But also, it's just really funny, and it will teach you a lot about life, and the beauty of it is that it will teach you different things when you read it as a kid than it does when you're an adult, and I think that's the best kind of media. Also, the great thing about it is that the way it was written is totally timeless in nature. Even though I think graphic novels and comics can be a super great medium to explore current happenings in terms of politics, in terms of the world, Calvin and Hobbes doesn't do that. And in that way, all the strips are kind of frozen in time and address bigger subjects that remain true no matter when you read it, which is, I think, a huge deal to me and very important and exciting. But it will never fail to make me smile, and my husband says that he was very much a Calvin when he was little, and in fact he even used some of the retorts that Calvin uses towards his teacher, Mrs. Wormwood, who, by the way, was named after a character in C.S. Lewis. That's another thing about this comic. It's full of really obscure literary references, which will be really exciting to you if you're into that kind of thing and you're kind of looking out to spot them. It is my secret hope that if I ever have a son, he will be a little bit like Calvin, because even though that... What?
That's terrifying.
No, I think that's a good thing. Even though that would be a massive handful, I would really be so happy to have a little boy running around the place that comes out with any of the things that he does. I also have a massive soft spot for Calvin and Hobbes because I inherited all the comic books from my brother, who also loved them. And so, yeah, it's just a massive deal to me, and it always makes me laugh. The next category is podcast. Now, I'm coming a little late to the podcast revolution. I guess it all started with me with Serial, and then that was kind of the only one I listened to up until my favorite podcast in the world was recommended to me, which is called Strangers, which I may have some more exciting things to tell you about Strangers, and I will definitely mention it in its own video. And then S-Town came out, and if you haven't listened to S-Town, just click off this video and never watch me again until you've finished S-Town, because it is the most beautiful, most literary, most heartbreaking, most hilarious storyline I have heard in many, many years. And it is not fiction, which is, real life is definitely stranger than fiction sometimes. But yeah, go and listen to S-Town and then come back and I'll give you 2 other recommendations of podcasts. So the first podcast I have to recommend, and let's remember that this is a video about the things that make me laugh, is called My Dad Wrote a Porno, which, you guys, like I said, it's difficult to get more than a chuckle out of me at most things, unless you're like a person I love around me, in which case I will laugh a lot with you. But this, we've taken to listening to it while we eat dinner, and I think that's a very bad idea, because a lot of the time I take a very, very long time to swallow my food for fear of choking because I'm laughing so much. My Dad Wrote a Porno is hosted by Alice Levine, who you might know as a Radio 1 presenter, Jamie Morton, and his friend James Cooper. Now, last night we were just talking about the fact that there's something really nice in media about just hearing some people who are already friends have a conversation about something, and especially if that something is funny. And you can definitely hear the chemistry between those 3 hosts. So what is My Dad Wrote a Porno, if you're not terribly late to the party like I am and you haven't listened to it yet? My Dad Wrote a Porno is the story of Jamie Morton's father, who had some kind of midlife crisis and self-published online a book called Belinda Blinked 1, now spoiler alert 2 and 3 as well, on Kindle, $1 Amazon, whatever. And this book is a horrifically badly written porno about sex and business. That is as weird as it sounds. But what makes the podcast so amazing is that it is so simple in concept, just these 3 friends reading this porno and laughing about it and commenting about it and getting involved in the story. Far too involved, actually. They really, really don't want to be involved, but they end up caring about the characters. And especially hearing Jamie Morton cringe at some of the more embarrassing parts, knowing that his father is the person behind this. What's great about it is that this man writes under a pseudonym, obviously, and the pseudonym is Rocky Flintstone, which from the off, you should know that that's going to be a great thing if the guy has chosen that as his pseudonym. I can't really say much about it because I don't want to tell you the story much, because there isn't one. It's just a really, really bad porno. But it's just really heartwarming and absolutely hilarious. Like, I just can't even tell you how funny it is. And is there a better feeling than laughing until you hurt all over? I really don't think so. The second podcast I have to recommend is born of some lovely girls right here on YouTube, and it's a slightly newer podcast. That is the podcast hosted by Rosianna House Rojas and Lex Croucher, which is called Make Out With Him. Now, I think they're on their 6th or 7th episode. I'm a little behind, but it's basically a dating advice podcast from 2 people who self-profess that they're not exactly experts in the dating game. If you watch Rosianna or Lex, which you can do here, they both have great channels, you'll know that they're both equally sensitive and funny, and so it won't really surprise you that I'm recommending them in this video. But basically, it's just the good old format of listeners writing in with their various and varied dating questions and just asking for advice. And I think the great thing about this one is that it does make me laugh and it does make me smile a lot, and Lex has a really dry sense of humour. And again, with the friends thing, Rosianna and Lex are really close, and you can tell that they just bounce off one another, and I find that really exciting and lovely to listen to. I think what I particularly love about this podcast is whilst it's funny, it's also some really good advice. And I think they both have a huge amount of empathy for their listeners, and they really care about whatever question the listener is asking. And that leads to some really interesting discussions on how we all navigate the dating world and how that can vary, and what we're supposed to do when our hearts are broken, and all about ghosting, and all about falling in love for the first time. Yeah, I feel like it's about a whole range of topics, and it's as funny as it is lovely, as it is good advice. And yeah, I knew I'd like it when they started it, because I love them both as creators anyway, and it just gets even better when you put them together in front of a microphone. So if you don't listen to that yet, I will link it in the description, but both that and My Dad Wrote a Porno should be available wherever you get your podcasts. Speaking of viewers and listeners writing in, I have an announcement, you guys. I am not too far away from 1,000 subscribers, and notably, I'm very close to 10k views on this channel. And because I like to celebrate for any occasion, ask anyone I know, I will literally pick any occasion to celebrate. My husband and I have about 6 anniversaries that we decide to celebrate per year. I have decided that I will do a Q&A right about when I reach 10k, and I think it will be a while until I reach 1,000, but if you want to tell your friends and family, I'm not complaining. But yeah, I'm going to do a Q&A. So if you have any burning questions, anything you might want to ask me about books, about life, about travel, about me as a person, I'm not one to find a question too invasive, so you can go ahead and ask me anything, as they say. Then you can leave it on the bottom of this video, and I will also go exploring, because I know that I've had some questions on previous videos that I haven't yet answered. So yeah, I guess this is the official Q&A announcement. And the next category is TV shows, and for that I also have 2 things to recommend. The first of that is Jane the Virgin, which is available on Netflix. Now, if you know me in real life, you'll have no doubt heard me rave about Jane the Virgin, because I've become a bit of a disciple for it, and I've been recommending it far and wide. But maybe if you haven't, you won't have heard of it, although it is on its 3rd season, so maybe you have. But anyway, I would wager that, in my opinion, and opinions are just opinions, and facts are facts, and not alternative. In my opinion, Jane the Virgin is the funniest show on television. Now, that's a huge claim, and it is also coming from someone who doesn't watch that many comedies, but I would still stand by the fact that I think it is the funniest show on television. Now, the premise sounds ridiculous, and that's because it is. It's basically about Jane, who is a Latino young woman who is saving herself for marriage, and she gets accidentally artificially inseminated with the sperm of a very attractive man that she knows, and ends up pregnant, out of wedlock obviously, never having had sex, hence the name of the show. And it's kind of her adventures and stories from then on. Now, I don't tend to tell people that before I recommend the show, because what most people do is roll their eyes and say that sounds absolutely ridiculous. But trust me, turn it on and your life is going to change. It's a Latin American telenovela satirizing a Latin American telenovela, and yes, that is as meta as it sounds. I wish that I could ever write something so clever. It is the most tightly written, cleverly written, doesn't miss a beat show that I've ever seen. Our heroine is everything I aspire to be. She's warm and loving, but also spiky and spunky, and who wouldn't want to be that? It's ridiculously feminist, amazingly feminist, excitingly feminist. It's a show that's full of strength and tenderness and hilarity, and possibly the greatest off-screen voiceover character you've ever seen in your life. He just makes the show and you never see his face. It's about undocumented immigration. It's about religion. It's about being a Latinx in America. It's about murder. It's about telenovela and being a telenovela star. It's about language barriers. It's about motherhood. It's about so many things. And I just couldn't recommend it enough. Please, if you take anything away from this video, go to Netflix, watch Jane the Virgin. It might take you a couple of episodes to get into, but wow, it's amazing. I love it. It's like on par with my love for West Wing, which is saying a huge thing. But it's nothing like West Wing, but it's just so good. And I think that we definitely need more representation of Latino culture on TV. That's a thing that's very sparse on any TV network. But please go and watch it and tell me what you think. Thanks. And speaking of representation on television, I'm so excited to recommend this next one. And this is called Speechless, and it's an HBO show. Is it an HBO show?
ABC.
Oh. It's an ABC show, and I'm not sure that it's available in the UK, but there are ways around it. I'm just saying. We all know that there are ways around it, but just pretend I said that. Rewind. It's an ABC show. It follows JJ, played by Micah Fowler, and his family. His mom is played by Minnie Driver, who you might have heard of. If you haven't, what are you doing? And JJ has cerebral palsy, which, fun fact, is what I have, if you're a newbie around here. But he is non-verbal, and it basically follows him and his whole family as he tries to navigate that awkward intersection between teenagehood and adulthood as a person with a disability. It's awkward enough without a disability, and obviously having a disability presents all of the challenges that it presents. And something like a disability also affects the whole family unit and how they interact. Now, the reason why this show is so exciting to me is because hello, disability representation on TV. Hello, actual actors with actual disabilities playing actual characters with actual disabilities. How exciting. And if you want me to make a video about my very strong feelings about the portrayal of disability in the media, I can. But in the meantime, I will link to Jen's video about the portrayal of deformity and disability in the media, because as always, she speaks better than I ever could. Here we have this show that not only showcases Micah Fowler as the great actor that he is, but also portrays disability in a sensitive, true way without being sentimental. It doesn't play to that able-bodied desire to just have everything sugar-coated. You don't feel sorry for Micah, and nor should you, which is super refreshing. And it's just very true to life, and it is very funny. And I think that's the great thing about it, because I've had enough, honestly, of all these able-bodied actors portraying disabled characters and getting Oscars for them in super serious movies about disability, because you know what? Life is funny, and sometimes life includes disability, and I think that Speechless as a representation of that is great, because it allows people to have the kind of laughter and joy associated with a sitcom without it being at the expense of the disabled character, which I think is super important. So yeah, this show is just really great. It follows them as they move to a new city, and JJ has to get a new carer, and it's about the relationship developing between him and his new carer, and how his family deal with that, and who his siblings are as people without disabilities, and how they interact with their brother. And Micah is that's not his name. Micah's the actor. JJ is a great character who's multifaceted. Yay, because disabled people are multifaceted. They're not only their disability, they also want to be a regular teenager with regular hobbies. And yeah, it just makes me cry and laugh all at the same time, because it is the show that I needed when I was little to show me that there were people around me being represented in the things that I watched, and the things that I read, and the things that I saw. And so it's come approximately 26 years too late for me, but it won't be too late for all the kids who need it right now, and all the able-bodied children who also need it too. So I would love for you to go and give some love to Speechless. It doesn't get enough, and it's not just funny because I have a particular affinity to it. That was really bad English, I don't know. But I think it would be funny to anyone, and it's just super endearing and an important portrayal of something that doesn't get enough attention. One of the exciting things too is that the creator of the show actually grew up with his brother, who was also nonverbal with cerebral palsy. So it's refreshing and reassuring to me to know that this media is coming from a place of truth rather than a place of exploitation. And I'm excited for Micah Fowler to come out into the spotlight and get some more roles later. And with that, we are at the end of our brief time together today. I hope that you can get at least one laugh out of anything I recommended today. Laughing really is the best thing in life, in my opinion. Or love, but like laughing should come with love. So those two things should intersect. But I am excited to hear your reviews about any of these things. If you've already seen them or heard them or read them, let me know if you have any ideas for 6 things videos that you would want me to talk about. Also, I forgot to say, if you are interested in asking me a question for the Q&A, please feel free to ask me about disability related stuff. That is definitely not off limits, and I would be happy to talk about it more on this channel. I've just kind of found it hard to break into that because I am a book person and I don't know how many people who watch these videos would be interested in hearing more about all of that stuff. So just let me know. And I don't know how to conclude these things. With that, I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and you can even click the little bell to get notified when I upload a video if you would like. Stay safe, stay happy, and keep reading, and drink cocktails if you're that way inclined. Bye! Weird, awkward 20-second moment. Play video games. He's motioning to me behind the camera and I have no idea what he's talking about. Married life, ladies and gents, married life.